suspected burglary, suspect residential burglary that took place that preceded the pursuit. The Newton Division LAPD is the lead agency, as we're now giving you a tight shot of the vehicle crossing over into traffic. When we first brought you this pursuit, the speeds were excess of 100 miles per hour. More than one person inside, multiple occupants said to be inside this, and it looks like it is in fact a Mercedes, four-door tinted windows. Very dangerous. At one point, the freeway was pretty open, but now, given the time and where they are along the 210 eastbound, is pretty stacked up. So weaving in and out of traffic dangerously, Alex. And, you know, this can turn badly very quickly.
It could. And the guy that does pursuits better than anybody here in Los Angeles is Stu Mundell, who is joining us on the phone right now. You're not up in Skyfox, but you're watching this. Stu, what are your thoughts as you watch this person drive pretty
very recklessly indeed, Alex? And you know what? You got me blushing there when you said when you introduced so much. You know, my biggest curiosity on this whole thing is how is it that one LAPD officer, like you said, from Newton Division, is the only, only law enforcement that we see in this picture. Maybe I missed something. Maybe there's something that we're not knowing about. But there's one LAPD behind this car, and they've been on the 210 as pretty much as long as I've been watching it. The 210 eastbound, they've been keeping that same direction. Where is the California? And as soon as I speak it, it comes to fruition. There they are. Because I was wondering, where is the California Highway Patrol in all this? And how is the LAPD, how are their sergeants allowing this to happen? Now, that LAPD officer dropping out, California Highway Patrol coming in, they have very different tactics. They handle pursuits very differently. I would venture to say maybe the CHP might be even in this traffic, might be a little bit more aggressive in trying to bring this to a stop safely. But again, burglary suspects, right? That was going to be my question. How do they handle pursuits differently, CHP versus LAPD? Well, LAPD, everybody has the parameters on where they can do and what they can do, and for that LAPD, what I was kind of angling at is he was by himself on the 210 freeway. We're in San Gabriel. What is he going to be able to do to bring this thing to an end? Even if he had that opportunity to do that pit maneuver and he tried to stop it, this is burglary suspects or a suspect, so, possibly armed. He's not going to do it. That's not going to happen. But now you've got California Highway Patrol. So now you've got backup and also the lead car. Going to be a different type of situation. They might be a little bit more aggressive. I don't think they're going to box him in per se, but they're going to be right on his tail more so than. And then, of course, the lights and sirens. And now that I say it, they're falling farther behind. But look at that. These speeds, that type of weaving in and out, this is extremely, extremely dangerous for all those other cars on the freeway right now. And all these people just going about their business. And then you've got this vehicle cutting in and out, high. And again, burglary suspect, there might be a little bit more to this because they just did not let that car go. Well, given that this was the Newton Division of LAPD, the thinking is that's where in that division is where that residential burglary probably took place. And then that's where the pursuit began, first by LAPD and now picked up finally by CHP. 210 freeway, where we essentially picked it up. Speeds a lot faster earlier because there wasn't as much traffic, but now it's traffic is pretty heavy at this point. It could be but CHP, obviously, to your point, Stu, will be a little bit more aggressive, knowing that there is not just one person, but we're told multiple occupants who took part in a residential burglary this Mercedes sedan. And you wonder also if, as the traffic potentially gets worse, if that may lead to this driver trying to get off the freeway, if they feel like they're boxed in because there's so much traffic going on. The good news of having those lights and sirens behind is it is a bit of a heads up to the other drivers that are there that something is coming. Beware, be alert, not maybe get off of your phone, because when the person was basically by themselves driving at 120 miles an hour, they could have hit anybody without a lot of warning.
as well.
Definitely. And right now you're well below speeds right now, 51 miles an hour. I'm pretty sure that's pretty accurate. We haven't seen the zoom in and out. And then also the other thing is why is he staying on the 210? He's been on the 210 East pretty much as long as this has been on. And that kind of makes me believe that this person has a destination. Whoever's inside that vehicle, they aren't local robbing, doing a burglary wherever they did it. They probably drove from a location, and now they're going to try to make their way back to that location. Again, we're in this. We probably already passed Azusa. We're probably getting right about
Azusa
that.
Avenue now.
So there's that. Yeah. There's that opportunity to dip south over here, but it looks like he is well established. Going to stay like this. We've seen him cut across all those lanes in a blink of an eye, but he's established in that carpool lane. Luckily, he doesn't have a lot of traffic in front of him, but high speeds, that C-Class Mercedes, that's probably, I would venture to say, probably an 07, maybe somewhere right in that area. Now, maybe a little newer than that, but still, it's an old. You're saying that there's more than one person inside that vehicle. It always makes me wonder why somebody doesn't have that voice of reason inside that car that's just saying, hey, why don't you just pull over, or, give me that opportunity. I'll get out. You do what you. It's always that ride or die mentality that we see, and it just weirds me out because if you get out of that car now, it's going to be a lot different of a crime than if you stay with it. And if somebody gets hurt, you just don't want to see that. I wouldn't want to even be part of it. So at any rate, right now, that car's still moving along. We're watching these speeds. It is just amazing to me how there isn't anything. I call it pursuit traffic. There's nothing slowing this car down right now as far as traffic or anything in its way. This afternoon, those suspects, they're going to go into custody just hopefully without any injuries to anybody involved.
Although they do get away sometimes. I mean, we report on that too. That's part of the reason that they run. Every once in a while, they go into a parking garage and, get away, or go into a neighborhood and they don't catch them.
Yeah, no, I always wonder, though. I think in the end they get caught, maybe not that day, maybe not that minute, but I would venture to say eventually they do get caught. Here we go now. Those speeds really starting to pick up again. You can see how this vehicle's passing all these other cars on the roadway there. And, I wish we could see a little bit more where that California role is. I'm also wondering if they are possibly doing something where they are, calling ahead their unit. Not that they would put out spike strips, but maybe just another car. Maybe they could slow a little bit of the traffic. There's other little things that they can do, but they will never put anybody in harm's way, including that suspect. That's something that, everybody needs to know, especially with all law enforcement out here in California. But right now, the span's still moving along. Good clip of speed right there. We're already in the East San Gabriel, Sunflower. We're coming, I would believe, and that 210 seems to be that freeway of choice. So this vehicle has a destination. I just wonder if he's going to be able to get there and what's going to happen there.
Well, we don't know who the driver of this vehicle is, if that person is a man or a woman. We do not know how many other passengers are in this vehicle. We do have reports that there are multiple passengers in that vehicle. You see the tinting is pretty strong, pretty illegal actually, based off of California standards, on that front and back window, which makes it really hard for us to get a good look inside of that vehicle as it continues to drive. And what would usually be rush hour traffic in Southern California, although has not hit too bad a traffic, and as we say that, maybe things will slow down here in the San Gabriel Valley as we in Empire.
Hey, Stu, you mentioned in terms of strategizing to bring this to an end and the aggressive tactics of CHP. Of course, we think about the pit maneuver. We can't do that because speeds are too high. There's too many cars around. We get that. But spike strips, you said that they wouldn't do spike strips. Why not?
Well, they wouldn't do spike strips on the freeway right now because how are they going to get? First, they'd put their officer into some sort of very dangerous situation where somebody's going to have to toss that out onto a freeway with other vehicles on there. Then the other vehicles might strike those spike strips as well. So we're not going to see spike strips on the freeway, especially not when we see traffic like this, and also with those higher speeds. We have seen them in the past. I'm never going to. You never say never. Whoever's doing the camera right now definitely definitely pushing in right there. You can clearly make out that there's somebody in that passenger seat. So at least two people inside that vehicle. It makes you wonder if there's going to be others in that back seat as well. But as far as the spike strips go, they might be able to do something like that if there was where he would get off a freeway. But again, it would be so many variables that would just fall together. They need to have time to prepare. They need to be ahead of that game. They can't be behind the curve. They have to be ahead of it. As long as you're on that freeway like this and moving at speeds, well, now we're at 37 miles an hour. And, you know, you could venture to say, if it's moving slow enough like this, and maybe there is like an opportunity where there aren't that many cars around it, they might do the pit maneuver. But right now, it is public safety, and that's going to be their big call, especially for California Highway Patrol. And they are going to do, like Alex said, lights and sirens, warn that public, let the people know what's going on. Hopefully they'll do the correct thing, which a lot of times they don't, is just get out of the way. But right now, this car slowing down makes you think there's got to be a lot more traffic ahead of it. An opportunity for California to do something to bring this to an end.
Yeah, I mean, if they do a pit maneuver here, ramming this person into traffic, damaging somebody else who's just an innocent passerby. I mean, the advantage, of course, you know, we all think in terms of, you know, TV timelines, and we'd like this story to wrap up nicely, but, you know, they don't have to go to extra at 7. You know, they can do. They got, you know, unlimited people and budgets, and they can bring in reinforcements, and ultimately they can wait this person out, and they can have them go through their entire tank of gas till the car stops, if necessary, and process, hopefully preventing somebody from getting hit or somebody from getting killed. But based on the speeds that this person was driving when we first joined this 15-20 minutes ago, you know, that is a very real danger, because this person has shown not any respect for the speeds, just like apparently not any respect for property based off of the accusations, and really being willing to drive wildly and put people in danger in the process.
But Stu, you bring up a good point about the fact that they've stuck on the 210 freeway this entire time, and we've been on this for probably about 20 minutes thus far. So the 210 freeway all along, and your point is they probably have a destination in mind.
It could be, definitely could be. He's had plenty of opportunities. The 710, he had the 605, clearly every off-ramp that he has passed, but continuing eastbound on that 210, taking to the Inland Empire, and California Highway Patrol, you know, you've said it, you're true. They can just wait this out. They can just stay behind this car for as long as they need to. Now it's getting really dangerous again. Whenever I see the suspect do something like this, I always think to myself, there's so much debris. If I would pull over just for whatever reason, I'd have a flat tire, and I always wonder, how do these guys drive in that type of situation and just not pick up a nail or something to basically bring that, you know, to create a flat tire. Right now, he's not in the car. He's in not the carpool lane. He's actually in that emergency lane. Those speeds really starting to pick up again. California Highway Patrol, I'm pretty sure they're going to stay with it, but how they're going to do that, they have to do it safely. A lot of people are going to have to move out of their way. This car continues to move along, like you said, at a very good clip. We saw a passenger, and we know there's the driver, so it makes you wonder if there's somebody in that back seat as well. Right now, though, the plan is probably to be trying to stay with it. They might be making radio calls, getting something ahead, and basically the only thing they can do is maybe just hand it off to another division as they leave the areas that they are patrolling. At California Highway Patrol, they have areas that they patrol, just like the LAPD does. And even in a situation, they might have a little leadway to just kind of go through, but eventually they're going to get out of their area, and some other California Highway Patrol is going to have to get in line to take it over. And every division, every area has a little bit of a different take on how they're going to handle things. We saw some stuff out in Ventura just recently that they're out there. They are very aggressive. As soon as the car got, they brought that thing to a stop, hook, line, and sinker. But out here, they might be a little bit different. And again, Alex, like you said, public safety #1. They're not going to do anything to endanger that suspect or anybody around them. They're going to have to wait for that that window to open, that minuscule opportunity, and they might take it. But right now, these suspects, they have free reign of it. And there's something else you brought up as well. Those guys in there, you were saying how they don't have respect and they don't care, and I agree with you 1,000%. But also, I would venture to say, not trained at driving at high speeds. California Highway Patrol, those ladies and gentlemen, are trained, and that it makes a huge difference, especially when it comes to public safety.
Although this driver is doing a pretty good job at maneuvering through all these lanes at a pretty high speed so far. It's been quite an advertisement for this person's driving skills for that vehicle. And also a reminder about the value of carpool lanes, because we've seen how quick this person's been able to drive in the carpool lanes, and maybe a reminder to take somebody along with you for your rush hour drive, because it will make life a little bit easier. Now they're not even going in the carpool lane as they drive in that emergency lane. You also wonder, as Stu mentioned, about debris, which is sometimes in that emergency lane, and how that could potentially impact all. Really moving now over 80 miles an hour on the freeway and taking off. And you wonder, as we now head towards Claremont and head towards Upland, you know, person originally from the Inland Empire, is there a neighborhood that they are heading to in, say, Fontana or somewhere else? Or is it sort of random of why they're heading back there? We wonder about their experience. We think that this all started with a burglary. Have they been involved with burglary gangs, which is something we've been reported on often here on Fox 11. Different incidents in Los Angeles in the last week where, you know, there was retail theft that clearly looked organized. A group that go out and do that sort of thing, and in this case, maybe they were caught.
Ontario area, Stu, 210 eastbound, that, you know, officers down there, is there an airship? We can assume that there's an airship.
Well, you know, you kind of wonder. California Highway Patrol, they definitely have a helicopter. They've got a very nice A-Star. Have we seen it much lately? I'm not really sure what's going on with them right there, budget issues or what it is, but their helicopter seems to be a little bit behind the curve when it comes to getting over pursuits lately. But this has been going on for a good amount of time, and this is one of those times where I wish I could be there. I would just push a button and I would know who's talking to who right away. But I would venture to say that there is going to be at least a helicopter over it, and many times it actually might be the California, it might actually be LAPD, especially since it started in the LAPD area, like you said, Newton Division. And Alex brought up an excellent point as well. They seem to be wanting to crack down on a lot of these brazen robberies, especially those smash and grab things. Now, a burglary, I don't know if that falls under the smash and grab. It might, but they have to crack down on it, and that might be one of those reasons why that one officer was staying behind it for so long by themselves. This was definitely a suspect that they wanted to talk to. This stuff, what we're seeing right here, makes my blood run cold. This is very, very scary stuff indeed. Just the difference. You've got those cars in traffic, that vehicle moving 80-something plus miles an hour. This is where I always get a really worried. If somebody makes a turn, tries to get out of the way, cuts this guy off very badly. But right now, still staying in that emergency lane. I'm sure California Highway Patrol, they got their lights and sirens on. Hopefully that's enough to get everybody's attention and to stay safe. But this pursuit continuing, those speeds up to 90 again. So, you know, this suspect definitely not too worried about those officers behind him, and just trying to get as much space between him and right now, those speeds, that could be the most dangerous thing, right? And that could possibly happen is that somebody just tries to get out of the way and makes that mistake and cuts this car.
So we continue to move now in the Inland Empire in Ontario on the 210 East. I actually was driving on this earlier today when I drove out to San Bernardino for a story. And, you know, this person hitting some traffic, now driving in the emergency lane. We don't know that much about whoever this person is, as our pal Dennis Zine, who often joins us during pursuits, former LAPD officer, former LA City Council member, would say if he was joining us right now. It's a safe assumption that this is not since first interaction with law enforcement. Based off the way that this person is fleeing, you wonder if they have some sort of criminal past. Off of that, you wonder also if that's part of the reason that LAPD was so insistent on staying with this vehicle and not going into tracking mode. You wonder if there's more to this story. That often there is more to this story. Somebody may have a long criminal rap sheet, and that may be part of the reason that they're aggressively trying to pursue that car. But let's see, as we're moving lanes now, are we going to potentially get off the freeway?
To your point, Stu,
this could move over to the right.
Yep, moving on over. There could be, you know, an exit here for them that they've been waiting for all along. CHP getting a little bit closer here. So this is the 210, and we're coming up on Carnelian Street in the Ontario area. And we can see more than one of the CHP officers there honing in.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, sort of strategizing. And, you know, it's always a little bit of relief when those speeds back down.
Well, there's a spike strip.
Oh, there is a spike strip.
They were on the freeway. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
You know,
so I had just asked why they wouldn't do that. And yes, I'm glad that.
Yeah, they're trying. And California Highway Patrol, they want to bring this thing to an end. Else that you know, I just kind of thought maybe you guys already talked about it, but you know, we have the time. Clearly, is, you know, if this isn't a stolen vehicle, they have. That vehicle belongs to somebody. That's a lead. That's a start. But they are not letting this thing go. And so that, again, is like Alec was talking about, is maybe there is something more going on here that we don't know about as the public. And in many a case, that is what the deal is. But they still know where that car comes from, and they have an idea who's behind the wheel. Do they need to catch them red-handed? I'm sure it makes things a lot easier. But, again, these are one of those things. Like Alex said, we've seen them get away. Well, occasionally they do, but a lot of times we just don't have the resources to follow up. They will find these people and they will arrest them. And again, this one right here, we haven't heard the word stolen vehicle, so they clearly has a registration. They know that that car belongs to fill in the blank. Maybe they know that this person is in the IE or in Redlands, and that's where we're going right now. But California Highway Patrol, they're not going to, I believe that they're not going to let this go, even after that attempt right there. And it kind of makes me wish we had a little bit of a wider shot right now, because I'm seeing some cars, but for a few moments there, I saw very few. I wonder if they ran some sort of traffic break to try to make that situation happen.
Well, they could do it again.
It's pretty unusual to see a spike strip deployed on the freeway. It does happen, but it doesn't happen all that often. And that also, you see one of those cruisers that are ahead of this guy, which may lead to what you're saying in terms of trying to slow down some of this traffic or give people warning. But the fact that they actually tried to do that also gives you a sense that they're pretty eager to try to make this thing end. But yet it still continues. It doesn't appear. Do we know if this person ran over the spike strip or not? It doesn't look like it.
Too far away. Yeah. Too far away. Yeah, the spike strip was thrown out basically on the shoulder in the carpool lane, and obviously they had a head start, if you will. The driver clearly saw that was being set up. So while we thought that they maybe were trying to get off the freeway, no, they're just trying to avoid the officer who the astute driver, if you will, saw coming up. So. Here we are, still on the 210 freeway in Ontario, and, you know, the spike strips deployed. It wasn't successful. Stu, it wouldn't surprise me, though, if they're planning ahead in several miles to do it again. Why not?
They give it a shot, and they just have to have that moment where everything falls together. That's where the things become very complicated, because how do you get spontaneous and have that same moment happen at the same time? It's like internet dating. It's just very, very difficult. And this vehicle just keeps moving along right now in that.
Did you just compare this to internet dating, Stu?
What just happened? Who broke Stu's heart? I want to know more about that story. There's something there. What bad experience? What Where are we going with this?
It's just you have to have all these ducks in a row to make it really just happen at the right time. And California Highway Patrol, this is so difficult. Like, people ask me all the time, is like, why don't they just do this? Why don't they just do that? If it was that simple, believe me, they would. And this car just continues. I mean, this is like almost to a point of defiance. You're going 100 miles an hour. You're in the emergency. California Highway Patrol behind you, a couple of vehicles. You got an SUV and one of those Chargers, and it's just, you know, it is just one of these things where you want to. And I'm starting to get a little frustrated. It's like something happened, you know, something mechanical, have a flat tire, get off the freeway. But this vehicle just continues on up into the triple digits. That little Mercedes is going right there, that little C-Class, and just kind of pushing it along. When they get on those high speeds like that, even a sports car, you know, if he makes a sharp turn or hits that wheel too hard, this thing could just go sideways in a bad way. And California Highway Patrol, they don't want to see that. They want to bring this thing to an end safely. And here we go, right back into that emergency lane, and it seems like he's actually accelerating once again. This is just so dangerous. And like I said, when he cars like they're standing still, I just get really, really worried. I honestly do.
Well, for our viewers who may have just jumped on with us, what you're looking at is a high-speed pursuit that's been on the 210 freeway for a minutes so far, if not longer. Inside is a burglary suspect behind the wheel, a residential burglary suspect, we're told. Multiple occupants inside who may also be burglary suspects. This was first picked up by LAPD in the Newton Division, and then it was taken over by CHP as they made their way onto freeways here, particularly the one and only 210 eastbound. Now we're in the Fontana area. We picked this up in Sierra Madre, so we've covered quite a distance, Alex, and we've seen the speeds go up to 100 miles per hour plus, down to, you know, 30 miles an hour just based on traffic. And we've seen a lot of this too, driving on the shoulder and weaving in and out dangerously of these unsuspected drivers.
I'm Alex Michelson with Marla Tejas, and Stu Mundell is with us as well, who we've just learned about his internet dating history, which we want to know more about. I'm just now focused on his profile this entire time. But let's talk about the real story here, which of course is this pursuit, which is serious business, because this can be dangerous to folks there that are driving right now, just trying to go home, likely after trying to get back with their families, and now they have this person driving wildly, and it could be a danger to them and without much notice to them. Talk about the challenge for CHP in keeping up with a driver like this on the shoulder, and trying to keep up with them while at the same time not making a maneuver where they end up ramming into driver, you know, while themselves driving 90+ miles an hour.
You know, Alec, those drivers and any of the law enforcement that are out there in those cars, they are trained professionals, and they also have a lot going on inside those vehicles. We'll split up that load. Basically, they'll have the lead car do the chase, and then the car that's behind will do what they say, make the call outs. I mean, say the lane speed, say the off-ramp, and give those type of calls, and let that first car be the one kind of concentrating on keeping an eye on that vehicle, keeping the public safe, and make those smart moves. And when I say smart moves, I mean be able to stay behind that being reckless, but now that law enforcement has to be safe and keep that public safe as well. That's one of the reasons why we like to see more than one cop car behind any one of these fleeing suspects, because you know then that is what's going on. A lot of times the airship, the helicopter, will make those calls for the officers on the ground, and we'll actually even hear them talk about that. You know, say, we'll make the calls, we'll keep everybody advised. And also what they're doing is they're letting other law enforcement agencies know what's going on. If he decides to get off the freeway right now in Rialto, I would be sure that Rialto PD they would know that this is happening, and there might actually even be some officers nearby one of those off-ramps. This car just touching that triple digit constantly out here in that emergency lane. I just hear the conversation that's going on inside that car right now. But, the thing is all those other vehicles we're seeing, those are the ones that I worry about. Those are the ones that law enforcement worries about. It seems like the only people that aren't worrying about anybody are these people, the one person behind the wheel of that car right now. Paula.
Yeah, so speeds, we just saw them exceeding 100 miles per hour again, officially in San Bernardino County and Rialto now. 210 eastbound. The driver remains a burglary suspect behind the wheel of this dark-colored Mercedes. Four-door black tinted windows. I guess that's repetitive. Tinted windows, illegally tinted, and you're seeing CHP. We saw probably about 10 minutes ago our first attempt to bring this to an end, and that was through the means of throwing out a spike strip in the carpool lane, but the suspect was able to evade the spike strip. No damage was done as far as we know, and it doesn't seem like it at all given the speeds here to any of those tires. Does look like low profile, though, too. Something else to bring up. And then, we bring this up, and I know it seems so sort of low-hanging fruit.
This could be yeah. Look at that wide-open freeway. You wonder if they stop traffic ahead.
Could be. We could be seeing another spike strip.
We might see something here, yeah.
There is the issue of gas. We've been on the air with this for some time. If they only had a quarter of a tank, for instance, it's not going to last that much longer. Yes, I'm sure it gets pretty good gas mileage, but nonetheless, at some point, gas will become an issue if this thing goes on and on and on, which we've seen before, Stu. Pursuits have lasted hours.
Definitely. We've been over a couple of them that have been lasting hours. You see another officer right there. He was behind that wall. If I was running the camera, I would have sacrificed this shot just for a second. I can almost guarantee you if that vehicle would have stayed in the emergency lane, that would have been it. This is the first time we're seeing him getting off the freeway. Something different happening here. I window, so I'm just going by what they're saying right there. So it looks like we're going to be getting onto the 215. So we're staying on the freeways. I believe we're going to stay on the freeways, but at least we're getting off that but on that transition road, this car kind of speeding up again. Something that's interesting is, and I hate giving the suspect props in any ways, but it seems like not push that vehicle to the limiter. That car will basically probably has a limiter of about 120 miles an hour, maybe 112, but we haven't seen that. We've always seen them like just at the hour mark and then drop back down. So that driver might have a little bit better control of that car than I'm even giving that person credit for. But at this point right now, it looks like we're still going about 90 miles an hour, where it's showing, we are on the 215. That's what I thought. So we're basically got onto the 215. Looks like we're heading southbound. But that vehicle continues to elude officers, continues to elude the California Highway Patrol. But again, even if this person has some sort of plan in mind, it is taking forever to execute it, and I feel the pain for the camera operator right now. Oh my gosh! But thank goodness we're away from that sound ball. But if he does get off the freeway in one of these areas, I'd be very curious to see if there is, quote unquote, I'm doing the air quotes, you can't see me, but is he going to get into a parking garage? Does he have a neighborhood that he's going
to?
We got off
the freeway.
Okay, here we go. And then we got our best look at that driver based off the camera angle we just. So now we're driving the wrong side on the road. Now we're turning around, getting on the other freeway on the other.
Yeah, it looks like are they going to pit him? Now this might be.
Are they going to pit him?
And this is the thing. This is so slow. He's moving so slow. It's like he's almost baiting them, right? Alec, it's like, come on.
It's a perfect situation right there.
It would have been the spot. It would have been that spot. Why they didn't do it, that's a tough one. I can't even say. But there we go again, back underneath some of these transition roads. Just keep that shot right there, and then the car will come to you. But again, those speeds seem to have been a little bit slower. Maybe it was just our camera angle. Maybe he was going 60, 70 miles an hour, even on that on-ramp. But basically, it looks like he made a wrong turn, and now we're heading back northbound on the 215 after we made that little south thing, got off on baseline. And the pursuit is continuing to stay going. California Highway Patrol, I can guarantee, cutting off that big rig.
There we go.
Whoa. Oh, that's painful. I feel bad for that officer. But I wish we got a little bit of a wider shot to see if we have anybody behind him.
Now we might actually be on side streets for the first time.
Yeah, but is any of the California Highway Patrol behind him? That's the big question right now. I'm sure the helicopter, they're probably making some sort of calls, but is there law enforcement behind him, and will they be able to reestablish before this guy gets someplace off?
This is very dangerous.
Yeah, this is getting to be much more.
Yes.
So we're now on Highland Avenue, Western Avenue. This is the Mount Vernon neighborhood. We're in San Bernardino County, and we're driving real fast. You wonder at this point also, people that for an evening walk with their dog or just, enjoying a nice night outside that could be on the streets in terms of many right here. But that is a concern at this time of night with somebody moving at those speeds on side streets.
Yeah, speeds about 70 miles per hour, West Highland Avenue. This is San Bernardino as we're going wider, blowing through this intersection. Looks to be sort of a residential area. So San Bernardino here, West Highland Avenue, and oh my goodness. Ooh. Not just pedestrians, but these unsuspecting drivers out trying to get home or run some errands.
Okay, look at them. Look at them. I'm going to try to pin them here. Here it comes. Here it comes. There we go. They're done with this.
And that's what I was talking about with California Highway Patrol being a little bit more aggressive than other agencies. Did that pit maneuver, spun them around, that car not disabled. This is going to be very tense moment.
Let's see who gets out.
That door popping open, and the hands are up. That's the first good sign we've seen. But again, you just got to worry, or I'm worried about other folks inside that car. The driver definitely getting out.
He knows that, what the protocol is. Turned around, hands up, and he's down. He's down on the ground, just like that.
We got at least one passenger in the front that we saw, and we wonder about the back too. So we don't know if they're armed, that process of getting them out too. Okay, so now he's being told to back up. Wow, this guy's really tall.
I'm sure he's following directions right now, and as Mr. Zine said, and so many, probably not his first rodeo, knew what to do pretty much right out the box. The California Highway Patrol, and this is the thing too, that you got a K9 unit there. I'm wondering if that is actually part of Highway Patrol. These guys had their ducks in a row. That K9 unit is not just happened to be there. That actually went to that pursuit. And now they're going to try to get that passenger out. And again, now comes the big curiosity. Who else is in that car? What's in that trunk? But right now, I can tell you the big portion of tension is over. But again,
we don't know what we know that there's somebody in that car, and we don't know if they're armed.
Yes.
Well, we were told that there was multiple occupants, so we'll see how many people are inside. You HP officers' guns drawn while the driver is now officially cuffed there on the bottom right of your screen. This is North State Street and Adams Street in San Bernardino as that driver is being hauled off. But all eyes, all attention on that Mercedes sedan. You can see the passenger seems to have his hands up or her hands up. There's a tank top that I can see clearly. You get a good look at the license plate there as well. Inside. Are they armed? Are they going to just surrender easily in this situation? They're being told to exit the vehicle, right?
Well, they're being told to exit the vehicle. A lot of plans on how they do it. Sometimes they'll say, put the window down, put your hands outside, use the outside door. Or they might actually tell this person to climb across.
Okay, here comes somebody from the back.
You can see somebody coming out the back, and they're probably specifically telling them because they want to make it as awkward and as uneasy for these people to get out of that vehicle. So if they can't pull it on these officers. There you go. Very graceful there, out on the ground, rolling around, but hands are up, and that's what to see. That's what I want to see as well. We never want to see a shooting happen ever.
You see the canine.
Right now,
I mean, can you imagine the adrenaline that must be pumping through this person's body to see that many guns pointed at them, to have a canine there as well? I mean, what you know, and now to back up into this, we know. So that person was in the back. We don't know if there's somebody else in the back. We know there's at least one person in the front that has.
And now they're actually making an approach because we did see somebody in that front seat.
We still do.
There was somebody in that front passenger.
You wonder if they're telling them to stay and to come at a time because it's easier for them to take care of it, which may be why they haven't come out yet. But they're clearly shouting commands, you want to show your hands at this point. I mean, this is still a tense moment.
Very well behaved. You're not seeing that dog barking or anything, so that canine very well trained, but I'm sure is probably looks at this as a game, wants to have like put me in, coach. Hopefully they won't have to. Right now you see that front passenger now doing
looks
across,
like a female.
and you know what? Marla called it. Female. Marla called it. She called it from go. And you can see her getting out of the car as well, hands out, a little bit more gracious than the other two, but definitely. Now, is this the last one? Was there?
We don't know.
Only in that back seat? That's the big question.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, it is now after 7 o'clock. If you're tuning in for Extra with Billy Bush, we're obviously covering the end of a pursuit which just ended minutes ago in the Inland Empire that was at very high speeds. Thankfully, we did not see anybody getting hit. It's quite something considering how intense the driving was here. They found where they could do a pit maneuver and ended this thing with a pit maneuver on a side street that was almost exclusively on the freeway. Once the car finally got off of the freeway on a side street, law enforcement was pretty fast and pretty aggressive in doing that pit maneuver. Okay, so they're moving forward. And now we're going to see if there's anybody else in that vehicle.
They'll check the trunk.
I'm venturing to say no. They had letting that dog in there. But I am curious to see if we're going to stay with it that long to see, you know, because they said burglary suspect. I wonder what type of burglary this was. If this was some sort of smash and grab, we're going to see a lot of merchandise in the back of that vehicle. But anyways, it is so awesome to see law enforcement, the plan come together. They did that pit maneuver, brought this thing to an end. Nobody got hurt in the end. And you can see it right there. It's all it is all good right now. It was a long pursuit, but definitely over. And great job for all the law enforcement that were involved, and especially that one LAPD unit that was with them forever. That finally handed it over to California Highway Patrol.
And now officially in custody as this thing comes to an end on a side street, North State Street, Adams Street in San Bernardino. Been on the air with this for the better part of the 6 o'clock hour. We have extended our time, and now we are well into Extra and Billy Bush. We're going to leave you now, but we'll have a full wrap-up of what we've learned about the speed pursuit. We'll have that tonight at 10 o'clock.
Stu Mundell, thank you for that. Now to Extra in Progress.
Sean Jr. just spoke to Barstool Sports.
I love Micah at 16. I love Micah now. He's, 16 and a half years old, 37. And I love him at 67. So